Good evening from Miami. This is John Quelch here, the Dean of the University of Miami Herbert Business School. I'm delighted to welcome our trustees, our alumni from around the world, our faculty, our students, our staff members, and most importantly, our special guest tonight, Robert Isom, the President of American Airlines. We thank you all for joining us, and this is obviously going to be a fascinating hour. Robert was telling me earlier he's already been on 6 hours of analysts' calls via Zoom today, so he's ready for all of your questions. So please feel free to send them in on the Q&A function. But let's start, Robert, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about how your leadership journey to being the president of American Airlines, and did anything in that journey prepare you for what you've had to face this year?
Well, hey, Dean, thanks so much for having me on today. It's a great honor, and I love talking about the airline business. So whatever comes up, we'll be ready for it. And by the way, before we get started, I've got to give a big shout out. I've got 11,000 team members down in Miami-Dade, and we couldn't be prouder of them. They're just really pulling through. And as well, I might even have some board members, both past and current, that are looking out for me. So I'll be on my best behavior, I'll tell you, okay?
I think to warn you, we've got a couple of them on the call tonight. So,
well, Sue Cronick is our current board member, right. and Alberto Barguin, who's a great friend, and Armando Cadena, who is also a former board member. They're just fantastic members of the American Airlines, and I know Miami-Dade community as well. So, to your question though, there's nothing in my background that could have prepared me for what we're going through today, and I doubt there's much that anybody has ever experienced, and I've been through a lot too. So I started in the airline business, almost 25 years ago, back at Northwest Airlines. I lived out in Asia during SARS. And, certainly was around during, 9/11 and, the Great Recession. And you pick up little things along the way. But, I'll tell you what, it's a really difficult environment. I've never seen anything like this. Demand has not fallen off just for a few weeks or a month like it did post 9/11. But it's months and months. And so our business has gone from full bore, looking for a nice, really strong 2020, down to, revenues that are 15% or 10% of where they were at the extreme. I take a look back during the Great Recession, and at that time I was working for U.S. Airways, and I remember being sent out by, at the time, Doug Parker, and saying, hey, we got to raise a lot of money. And I remember going to partners and really offering, kind of 20%, returns on investments, and having people say, hey, we just can't do business with you. But I'll tell you what, the airline business and the people around it were resilient, we're strong. And I think most of us live by the saying that, it's not the end. If we ever get, in terms of getting close, we'll be able to work our way out no matter what comes our way.
Can you talk a little bit, Robert, about the sequence in which you faced the various challenges that you had to face back in February, March? When did you become aware that this was going to be an enormous problem? And then you sit down with a board of directors or with the leadership team and figure out a sequence of decisions that you have to make. Could you walk us through that process?
Yeah, you started hearing things, just right, at the beginning of the year. And, again, we've all been through, we have in an airline, we have plans for just about everything, including pandemics. And we'd seen things, even recently with like Ebola. And so you never have, a real understanding of what can be. But, certainly when there started to be an impact from an international perspective, that's when really, everybody started to really look in. And, initially we have a sizable operation in China, both to Beijing and Shanghai. We fly to Hong Kong as well. And you know, when you saw that there was going to be problems in terms of getting in and out, that's when you knew that, hey, this is something that's bigger and that could have an impact on really the rest of the international business and certainly the world. And so we sat down right away and went to, thinking about how do you plan the airline? And from an airline, perspective, it's people, it's planes, it's everything going on in the world. So we sat down and took a good look at things and took some really aggressive action right off. And so, making adjustments to your schedule where you pull down from 100% down to 20%, airlines are built to run, all the time. It's 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. So we were basically, rebuilding the airline, almost on a daily basis, not really knowing exactly where things were headed. But quickly, it became evident that, look, this will have a tremendous impact, not just on the global economy, but specifically on the airline business. And to that end, we knew that liquidity and being able to manage through is the most important thing. And so much of our attention right away went to raising cash, conserving cash, and really trying to find a way eventually to get people back to travel.
And so obviously one of those approaches, as you've said, would be to take down the size of the operations. And I presume that you were able to do that on a gradual basis. In other words, you don't have to go from 100 to 20. You decide to go from 100 to 80. And then when things deteriorate further, you have to decide to go from 80 to 40. Is that how it works? And how do you decide what elements of the fleet to retain, which to park in the Arizona desert or wherever these planes are? How does that work?
Well, Dean, so much of our business, as I think we have tremendous fixed cost in aircraft and facilities and people as well. And so at the height of the pandemic, and this is really just taking a look back in the second quarter, we were burning $85 million a day in terms of cash. So much, though, when you think about fixed costs, is trying to figure out what kind of duration is this event going to last, is going to be. And our initial work was to go work with the government, and we were very successful in participating in the first CARES relief program through a payroll support program, which allowed us to keep our team members in place all the way through October at full pay. That was incredibly helpful. It stabilized and helped us get to a point where we could really start looking to the future. During that process, we thought about doing everything that we could to fast forward the transformation of American Airlines to where we want to be. And that's obviously changed as time has progressed, but initially it meant our fleet. So American Airlines has a fleet of over 1,500 aircraft. And we went immediately to what aircraft are going to be in the fleet for the long run, which ones are efficient, sustainable, and we made a quick assessment. And with that, greatly simplified the nature of the way we do business. So we went from, and this is over the course of 5 years, but we went from almost 50 different fleets and subfleets down to about 25. And then we honed in on 4 specific aircraft types for the airline: the 737 family, the A320 family, 777s, and 787s. We jettisoned 5 different aircraft types. And with that, it's everything from spare parts to, maintenance programs and engineering and, all sorts of training. So we made some really quick moves that were designed to stem the tide of bleeding, but then also position us to really come out of this well on the other end.
Terrific. So we've talked about the hardware. Let's talk about the software a little bit, yeah, and talk about the people element here. Obviously, this is an incredibly important industry to the economy, but it's an incredibly important service sector as well. how were you able to collectively or as American persuade the government to put you at the top of the, or close to the top of the priority list? And once October arrived, how did you handle the situation once the funding expired?
So a few things. First, in terms of team, we're a people business. American Airlines has over 100,000 team members. And we're at the highest of high tech when you think about, aircraft and engines and, the internet and how we sell, but we are a service business too. And at the end of the day, our mission at American Airlines is really to take care of people on life's journey. And we have that same view of our team members. And our team, largely organized, nearly 85% of American Airlines team members are represented by unions. They got together and we got behind them in working with the government. And what really appealed to politicians on both sides of the aisle, and this is in the administration, and it's in the Senate and it's the House as well, was that the airline business is essential to commerce in the United States. We're infrastructure as much as anything else, any other business is. And so whether you think of, cargo or whether you think of, critical services, we facilitate business happening. And it became really apparent that if we just simply did what would have otherwise happened if there was no support, we would have pulled the airlines down to 15%, 20% of the type of traffic that we had, of frequency that we had. And in doing so, the consequences would have been just catastrophic for the country. During the height of the pandemic, I called some of those people that were traveling, like yourself. And great. And I did the same. And I asked them, why are you out there flying? I mean, the rest of the world is, hunkering down. And what you found out is you had people that I called one gentleman, and he was a power plant mechanic. And he said, hey, look, I gotta go, because if not, guess what? It's lights and it's air conditioning and whatnot. If I'm not there, that's what happened. I talked to another woman that said, hey, Robert, I don't know what you're calling me about. I don't travel that much. I'm really glad you're flying, because if not, I'm a bone marrow courier. I wouldn't get to where I need to go. So it gave me, even more passion for what we do for a living. But, when you think about, that appeal to the government, it was an easy case to make, and our team members led the way. We got behind them. So fast forward, and what we did is we went and we said, hey, look, we think that through combination of loans and then also, basically payroll support grants to keep team members on, we think that this is going to take, 6 months or so. That was, the general consensus. We got to October, we found out, hey, look, it's just, demand has not rebounded as much as it's necessary. We're still only back to, about 35% of revenue. The business is still just as important, but you can't keep going on and burning, cash forever, especially without outside support. So we found ourselves in a position where we did everything we could through enhanced leave programs, early out programs, to really try to take care of people in the best way. And then where we couldn't, we have furlough programs that we unfortunately had to enact in October. And we have about 20,000 team members that have been out of work now for over a month. And the issue as we look forward is really this, is an airline, again, it runs, it's a big machine. And you can't turn it off and on and off, with a flip of a switch. Pilots take 9 months to get into position, depending on their wide body or narrow body or, first officer, captain. Even our team members that work the fleet side and load bags, they have to be approved and certified to be able to work at an airport, which, takes months. So what we find ourselves in is a situation where we don't want to get, too much beyond, the freshness of these team members being out of work, because it'll take a long time to get things back up and running. That's
an excellent point. Can you just indicate has early retirement programming been part of this equation? And a second question, which I already see has been asked, to what extent were you able, or did you give accommodations to people who met the CDC criteria for being vulnerable if they were frontline employees?
So that's an excellent point. Look, the airline business is one that is, we are, front and center in terms of being out there. We cross borders and make connections and bring people together, and that's what we do for a living. So we knew that, first off, we had to be especially considerate of our team members that were going out, really, on the front lines every day. And so early on, we put in place, really, I think fantastic benefits in terms of anybody that either came down with COVID or had to self-quarantine because of exposure, where they would get extra 2 weeks of paid leave for that. During the entire time, we kept all team members actively engaged, and that's worked very well. And for the most part, and I know we'll get to this, the airline and flying itself has proven to be very safe. And not an environment in which the contagion is happening. It's actually something that I'd love to talk more about. So I feel like we've done a really nice job of taking care of our team members, and even those that have been furloughed, they come with furlough benefits, and then also we're ensuring that we keep in touch with them, because the one thing I know, and I can see it today, is that when things are open, people will travel. So, in Miami today, we are going to Miami-Dade. We're going to be running 250 flights. I don't know what the load factor today is, but it's probably, 60% or so, plus, and has been, higher than that. When things are open, people will travel.
I just want to give you a little more opportunity to talk about some of the safety features on the planes and the myth that some people still enunciate around the quality of the air. And I know on the newer planes that you have in your fleet, the air quality purification system, the circulation system, is really much better than I think it used to be 10 years ago.
Dean, and thanks for that question. But, first off, to everybody that's out there, please, just plain and simple, wear your masks, okay? That's the one thing that I want to, just drive home. And if you're on American Airlines, wear your mask or you won't be flying. Okay, so that's the rules these days. But to the travel experience, we know that this is going to be a factor that is a point of differentiation. I think of the business from the old to the new, which is, we have to be extremely, clean, sanitized, and so. Early on in the pandemic, we took a look at our cleaning programs throughout the airline, just about any place you could touch, whether it's the kiosks, railings at the airport, jet bridges, you name it. And we went through and totally redesigned things. So aircraft, that had formerly only been given deep cleans, maybe a few times a week, it's virtually, every other day. Every turn, aircraft are clean. And now we've even augmented further with electrostatic spraying of antimicrobial disinfectants that we've actually worked with manufacturers, to help get certified with the EPA. It's proven to kill coronavirus. And that's done, just it lasts for 90 days on the aircraft. But at the start of the trip, we've established touchless kiosks. As you come onto the aircraft, you're given sanitizer. And in terms of the aircraft environment itself, look, we're dealing with, first off, American Airlines has the youngest fleet, so we have the latest in terms of, the air filtration systems. But the air on an aircraft, and I'll be as brief as I can, it's filtered and brought in new, such that the air on the aircraft is changed out every few minutes, almost 20 times an hour. It's the equivalent and even better than what you would get in in the best hospital operating room. And so, and the design on an aircraft has air that comes from the top and then is sucked out through the bottom. and 50% is renewed at all times, and all of it is run through high efficiency particulate air filtration. And that does a tremendous job of, first off, making sure that there is very little exposure to anything, and then secondly, making sure that whatever air on the plane is extremely clean. So to that point, I know the design. But on top of that, we've had Harvard, do a study. The Department of Defense has weighed in. Boeing and Airbus, of course, have. And what we see is, and I can back this up with whether it's the billion plus people that have flown, since the start of the pandemic, and really the less than 50, cases of contact tracing that we've been asked to do from the CDC, or even our own team members, where our flight attendants and our agents, first off, the American Airlines as a whole has a lower infection rate than the country, and our flight attendants and our agents actually have a lower infection rate than the company average. And so we know in whole that the aircraft itself is a safe environment, and one that, look, if we can just get everything else around and people wearing masks and ensuring that they take the appropriate precautions elsewhere, we can get this thing under control.
Mm-hmm. Terrific. I think people will be very impressed by your number of, I think you said only 50 cases of contacts that related to air travel on American.
No, and it's not just America, that's the industry.
Wow.
Yeah.
Let me ask you then next, how well has the traveling public done in terms of compliance?
So we've been very pleased, and for the most part, our flight attendants and our gate agents, we make announcements before people board. We will give masks if people don't bring them on. And then we'll remind people in flight. And of course, there are occasions when people are taking a drink or maybe getting a bite to eat. And there are situations where people don't wear masks. But we're quick to try to address those. And for the vast majority, that's been successful. And where it's not, we actually put in place bans for travel throughout the remainder of the pandemic. So I've been pleased. And again, Dean, the one thing that will, I know is of interest as well is that in many parts of the country, quarantines are in place and they're such that people don't move around and aren't going to move around. But in many parts of the country, I know in Florida and other parts of the Sun Belt, when things are open, people will travel. And so I know that there's a pent up desire, to get out there, which gives me great hope for the longer term.
So one question that popped in that's relevant to that is, will the pent up demand be so great that the pricing will be very high?
Well, let's see how that all plays out. But I'll tell you this: I think that there's plenty of capacity to meet the demand that might be out there. I hope for the day that we get back to really regular load factors that again allow us to not only make a return at the airline, but also think about flying to those places that we've had to cut back on. And at American Airlines, we've had to reduce service to a number of cities. I know there are 11 markets that still haven't gotten service back started up, and some may be gone permanently. So my hope is that we get to that point in time. But the great thing about the airline business, again, Dean, as you know, whether there's pandemic or it's no pandemic, it's an incredibly competitive business. And my guess is that as travel has always been, it's been something that's been incredibly affordable to really all segments of the country and people that want to fly.
So a related question to that, Robert, is in the wake of an earlier downturn, American merged with U.S. Airways, and do you expect further consolidation in the industry as a result of the economic problems that you've had to face?
Well, Dean, on that point, look, the American U.S. Airways merger was, I think, the last of the really big mergers, and that was look, back, 2005, I think that there were, 15 different carriers that had 75% of the business, and, fast forward to 2015, and it was, really 5. Look, there's supply and demand, and in terms of the network carriers, I think that we all do about the same thing. We all fly to the same places, and we're relatively the same size. There's, some carriers that really have different business models, like Southwest and JetBlue and Alaska, that keep things, ultra competitive. So my view is that there's probably not a lot more out there, and certainly, at American Airlines, we don't expect it.
Okay, so a couple of questions on the demand management side. You alluded to various states and cities imposing or reimposing quarantine restrictions and flight restrictions. I think Illinois may have announced something along that line today. How does your back office manage the demand forecasting and the demand readjustment implications when these short-term unexpected changes in policy at the state or city level impact you and the flying public?
Well, that's a fantastic question, because in the past, airlines have been, great collectors of information, right? If, our head of revenue management, a year ago, if you said, hey, how many people are going to fly on the first Thursday of, July, he could have come to, almost within, a percentage or two, year after year after year, based on, historical knowledge and also what's coming through. But when you see such a demand drop off, all the models are thrown out. And as a matter of fact, our revenue management team has gone from, hey, we don't revenue manage so much anymore. We're just trying to find people to fly. So any type of changes to the environment with quarantines and testing requirements and you name it, it has an immediate and impactful. It really is impactful. So one of the things that we've seen in terms of consumer behavior right now is that much of the demand curve has shifted into the couple of weeks preceding the day of departure. Right. Whereas in the past, you may have seen more of an even spread from day 0 out to 60 days prior, and actually people booking travel 250 a year out. So it's made it really difficult. But what you see in the month of October, American Airlines, flew a schedule that was, roughly 40% of what it had been the prior year. But we actually achieved load factors that were over 70%. And a lot of that is being, just incredibly quick and nimble. And so while so much of the airline is planned, weeks and months in advance to make sure that we have pilot schedules and aircraft rotations, what we've done at American Airlines, and I give credit to the whole team here, has been incredible in terms of being able to tailor the airline to what kind of demand is out there. And we're able to do it, it builds schedules, virtually every month. So what you'll see from us as we take a look over the next couple of months is really ride the schedule that we have today. We're going to wait to see. I'm very optimistic on therapeutics and testing, and certainly the vaccine news earlier this week was good news. And we'll see where that takes us out into the new year, and then we'll think about how we ramp up from there.
So just forward thinking to the ramp up, how quickly is it to bring? How quick and easy is it to bring aircraft out of retirement, as it were, as needed in order to achieve that? I presume it won't be so much of a problem with furloughed employees eager and willing to come back as quickly as possible. But what about the hardware?
I'll take you through both sides. So in terms of the fleet itself, we have retired over 150 aircraft. Those aircraft are gone for good. So American Airlines is already starting in a position where we'll be significantly smaller, and that's just the plan going forward. We'll adjust it as demand returns. out of the 1,300 aircraft that we have remaining, what happens now is those aircraft, for the most part, are on some type of regular maintenance program. We have some that are in extended storage. And then, another degree would be actually, pickling them and putting caps over a lot of things and, having them in longer term storage. But for the most part, the short term storage, those aircraft could be, it's really just a question of manpower. We have the world's largest commercial aviation maintenance base in Tulsa, and we have a team there that is incredibly well equipped to take a look at making sure aircraft are put back on maintenance programs and ready to go. So right now we have a couple hundred aircraft that are in that longer term storage. It would take some time, but it's a matter of weeks and months, not any time longer. People are a bigger issue, though. It takes a lot of time to get a pilot trained and in position, and once they're off and not current, there's a lot of work that has to be done to get them back. And the same holds true, as I said, for other team members. But if demand returns and when demand returns, we'll be ready to go.
Turning back to the consumer again for a moment, how are you retaining brand loyalty among the traveling public, among your Advantage members, when in many cases they're not flying and they're not experiencing the good service?
Well, that's another really insightful question. So those that are traveling today, first off, they skew much younger, and so I don't recall the exact stats, but it's something to the effect of more than 50% of our travelers now are under the age of 30 or 35, and that's a much greater proportion than it would have been otherwise, as well. The leisure traffic, dominates. Business travel is still only back by about, 15% of where it was. And even as you mentioned, our Advantage program members, there's a lot of our travelers now are not Advantage program members, whereas before it would have been the vast majority of travelers were Advantage program members. And so we've had to work on two fronts. One is we have the opportunity to serve a whole different group of customers that maybe haven't flown us much at all, and try to get them into the fold. And so we've done things like especially for the millennials, one-click enrollment to the Advantage program, as opposed to longer forms and things like that. To those that aren't flying, we've done things like extended Admirals Club memberships, extended elite status so that people know when they come back. Just as you were called, Dean, and I've been making calls, we have a team of reservations agents and also our Advantage program customer service agents and our customer relations team that are out there making calls, letting people know about all of our different programs and that we'll be there ready for them when they want to come back. So I think on that front, we're doing a nice job. You'll see us, do some really targeted, marketing and promotional work with those different groups, and we try to tailor them as much as possible to what people need.
Do you want to say a few words about the new AirPass offer, which just came out?
That's fantastic. The AirPass gives you a way to really sign up and be, the elite of the elite, and really get all the benefits of some of our largest corporate clients. And what it requires is making an advanced purchase. And right now, what we've done is we said, hey, the minimum threshold for getting into AirPass is now just $5,000. And so I'm turning on my marketing hat, Dean. And it's a fantastic deal and a great way to stay connected and have the ability to go out and fly at the lowest fares when you want to go.
Okay. So here's another one that I think is interesting to a lot of people that preceded COVID, but it did have an interesting impact on demand, and that is the Boeing 737 MAX. Can you talk about the last couple of years, how you as a customer were dealing with this particular problem that I guess you had committed a lot of aircraft orders to Boeing for this jet. So how did that impact the operations? And perhaps COVID was helpful in that regard. You didn't have a lot more of those jets that you would have had otherwise if they'd been delivered on time.
Well, remember when the MAX was the only thing that was in the news? Yeah, it's a very different time, and I hate to say you long for those times again. But look, the MAX is something that American had taken delivery of 24 aircraft. We've been flying the MAX very successfully before it was grounded as a result of the two horrible accidents. But since that time, it's been well over a year and a half that Boeing and the FAA and the pilots unions and foreign regulatory authorities have been giving that aircraft a scrutiny at every level to the nth degree, and really my feeling is making recommendations both from a training and a flight procedures basis to also mechanical changes that are going to make that aircraft the safest aircraft really ever flown. We've had some good news as of late in that I think that the process for getting FAA approval for ungrounding is coming to an end. We hope it's within the next few weeks, next month or so. And at American Airlines, we've been working every step along the way with our pilots union, with the FAA, and also with Boeing to make sure that they've known, our needs in terms of absolute safety. So when that aircraft is ready to go, when the FAA and our pilots say it's ready to go, that aircraft, I can guarantee you, is going to be, one of the best flying. Our game plan, assuming that there's an ungrounding fairly soon, will be to actually get out and do some test flying with it in December, have a chance to take team members out and potentially even some media and other interested parties. I'll be on the first flight, the first commercial flight, which we anticipate will be at the end of December. We'll have probably a handful of flights that still take off in December. That flight will go from Miami-Dade up to LaGuardia. And, I'm confident that it's going to be something that over the long run, our pilots, our flight attendants, our team, and our customers will really appreciate, and it will offer a great service. And I'll say that just from an aircraft perspective, on the interior, that aircraft is really nice. So it's, a brand new seating design for us. It has extra large bins, satellite Wi-Fi, and I think provides a really comfortable environment and, a really nice aircraft for our pilots and our flight attendants to serve.
So we have a number of folks on the webinar who are civic leaders in Miami, reflecting the importance of the airline. I noticed that Gary Goldfarb is with us, who's the chairman of the Miami-Dade Beacon Council Board of Directors. So could you say a few words about the importance of Miami to American Airlines and how that may evolve in the future once we're back to normal?
Oh, yeah. So, look, Miami-Dade is incredibly important to American. Ever since that, the whole Latin and Caribbean, network was secured, some 30, 40 years ago. It's been, a gem within American Airlines network. So the way we view it is, first off, just a dynamic, a local originating marketplace. As a destination, everybody knows what South Florida brings to the country and into the world. But as a connecting gateway to the Caribbean and to Latin America, it's central to Americans' future. And on that basis, we've dedicated the best aircraft We will fly 350 flights a day to 130 countries. It's going to be an economic engine for Miami-Dade, and it's over the long run, it's going to be something that really supports American Airlines and differentiates American Airlines from the competition. I was recently, I took a trip down to Sao Paulo a couple of weeks ago. We have a relationship with the carrier Gol in South America. And, access to Miami is so critical. And I heard that, front and center, on the trip just a couple of weeks ago. So, be confident in that. Miami, incredibly important, a big part of our network. We've got a lot of assets invested and intend to invest more going forward.
Thanks. So we've got a large number of audience questions. So here's one that relates to service out of Miami. Why can we not fly American nonstop from Miami to Asia?
Why can't we? Okay, well, first off, the local marketplace, and this is the origin and destination. That's something that is always what we have to take a look at. And so, in terms of connecting points from South America, Latin America, Caribbean, up and around, you do have to understand, the distance, the time and the distance it takes to get from one point to another. So from a connecting perspective, okay, we have to rely quite a bit on, the local marketplace in Miami, as opposed to connecting traffic that comes in to support really, really long haul flying to Asia. Europe works. There's certainly a large enough market to support flights like Miami Heathrow. But to Asia, it's a little bit different. We have, quite frankly, better connecting gateways through Los Angeles and through DFW and now in the future out of Seattle to Asia. And from my perspective right now, it's not only a really, really large aircraft investment. Don't forget, every time you say I want to start up a route with something like a 787, you're talking about investing $500 million or more in terms of aircraft. That's before you've put one passenger on a flight. So it's probably not something that we see in the future. Although I will say that anything that we can do to encourage our partners, which in the case of an airline like JAL, is one and the same as American because of our joint business. We look for and try to arrange for those type of opportunities, which then connect Miami to a connecting hub on the other end, in Asia. So anyway, long story, but for now, I've got to get you through China over one of our other easily connecting hubs.
Okay. Have you lost premium market share to NetJets, Wheels Up, and other such carriers during this crisis?
So that's another interesting question, and I try to make sure that I'm out there talking to just everybody in the business. And the one thing that I'll say is that that service is really still pretty pricey, and while it's something that we need to pay attention to. In terms of the service that we can offer, through flagship lounges, out of Miami, and business and first class service, and arrivals lounges on the other end, and premium services, we can do some things that are certainly equal to, if not better, that people feel just as good about, at what I believe is, an extraordinary value in comparison to what it would cost to travel private. So I would say at this time, it's indecipherable if it has happened.
Mm-hmm. Okay, couple of questions regarding culture. So, what is the culture at American Airlines? How would you describe it? And has it been under pressure during this period, or has it been reinforced by the need for the team to pull together? And then second related question from another student in Professor Major's strategy course, what would you describe as the three most important traits of a team member at American?
Okay, so I'm going to three traits. Okay, look, in terms of culture, what I'll say is that where I started the discussion, we're a people serving people business, just plain and simple. If you don't have everybody pulling in the same direction, at every part of the organization, right, you're bound to fail. And so, culture is incredibly important. But it's also one that, we have to be conscious of where we come from. American Airlines, is coming up on its 100th anniversary in a few years. So we've been around a long time and have seen a lot in terms of upturns and downturns and growth and contraction. And many of our team members have experienced things like, furloughs. So, trust is really so important. Doing and delivering, what's expected, when it's expected, incredibly important. And our team members, I think through this crisis, have really come together. They realize as much as anybody, what's at stake right now. They realize what they do for the country as a whole. In normal times, what we do is a noble profession, bringing people together and, facilitating commerce and keeping the country moving. Where we're headed now, though, as we talked, it does bring people together. The process of working together to go to the government and to secure some support to keep people in position in jobs, I think has been a great bond that we'll be able to really use going forward. Now, in terms of traits, I think the thing that you have to underscore right now is that and on a normal operating day, you have weather, you have mechanical issues, you have anything that happens in your life happens on our airline, 500,000 times a day because, we've got 500,000 passengers. We've got to be prepared for everything, including, things like pandemics. So flexibility is, an absolute, necessity. If you want to come in and, go from A to B to C to D every day the same way, the airline's not the place for you. Next thing, you have to want to care for people. If you don't want to be around people, if you don't want to take care of people, this is just not a great environment because as I said before, it's absolutely essential. And, if I were to pick out a third, I just say, that the business, as I said, is essential and it's so extremely safety conscious and government regulatory, conscious, but you got to want to have some fun. And, to that end, we create an environment, I think, as well that, allows for that, with all the seriousness. And, we have some fantastic people, as I said, 100,000 team members that do everything from, clean planes all the way to, basically making planes. So couldn't be more proud of them. And just about everybody embodies those traits and more.
How have you motivated your subcontractors in the cleaning area to up their game to meet the new standards? Has that been a challenge?
Well, look, yeah, again, everything that we do comes under such scrutiny that I think that the environment that we're in today, it just reinforces the importance of every job. Today, there couldn't be anything more important than making sure that the Surface-Wise 2, this is our, antimicrobial disinfectant that is electrostatically sprayed. People know, that that's the difference between an aircraft being, clean and safe, as we say, and not. Our contractors get it, and their team members, my feeling is really do understand the implications of doing the job or not doing the job more now than ever.
Okay. What permanent changes in the manner in which we travel do you see coming out even after we are restored to normalcy?
Well, I'll start with this, that the level of cleaning and the confidence in safety is just it's just part of how we're going to live going forward. I think that will make for a better travel experience all around, and much higher customer satisfaction. The other kind of things I think you'll see is that people are going to be really mindful of the service offerings that we have, and so we're already talking about in the future, what does airline service look like, so that people want it and enjoy it, but that it's not maybe as much personal contact. It's not as much face-to-face serving in different locations. Whether it's our lounges, whether it's service in the airports. I think that people are going to demand much more control of their environment. And we have all the tools to give it to them. And so whether it's, touchless kiosks or the ability to change flights on a fly, all of that's going to remain. And to the flexibility point, I also believe that things like, no change fees are things that are likely here to stay in the long run. People want that flexibility. They want that cleanliness. They want to control their itinerary.
Have lower fuel costs and cargo service really helped you to stave off financial ruin?
I wish we could take advantage of the fuel price. Don't forget, we had per barrel, prices of oil, down below, $20, and I could only dream of flying a full schedule in that kind of environment. Unfortunately, we're only flying, a fraction of the schedule. And even now with oil at, I think, around $40 a barrel, it's something that in times gone by, you would have said, hey, this is a pretty good time. So we're not able to take, full advantage of it. We don't, American Airlines, we don't hedge the purchase of fuel. And so so for that reason, look, we got to make this up, based on demand. And the next part of the question was, make sure I get this right. So
cargo, okay. Has that helped?
Okay. So cargo, that's interesting. So cargo in general, in its high water mark, American Airlines is roughly a $45 billion revenue carrier a year pre-COVID. And high water mark for cargo was about $1 billion worth of revenue. We carry cargo on the belly of all of our aircraft, but largely through containers and pallets on our wide body aircraft. And that cargo is really international focused. So, as we take a look at the world cargo marketplace, air cargo, about 50% of that demand is served through dedicated freighters that, maybe FedEx or Polar or, you name the company, operate. The other 50% comes through the belly of, the network carriers and the global carriers of other countries. And the interesting thing is that with the pandemic and with, the devastation to international traffic, there are very few, passenger flights flying in comparison to where that had been in the past. So a tremendous amount of capacity has been taken out of the marketplace. So what have we done to respond? One is that we actually fly passenger aircraft with no passengers on dedicated cargo charters, just filling the belly. Right now, we've done, I think, again, can help me, 1,500 to 2,000 of those flights, right? And other carriers have done the same. That's been incredibly beneficial and has really kept cargo revenues in this last quarter about where they were prior year. But the point I'll make right now, though, is I think important for people to understand, is that as we come out of and think about managing the pandemic even further, look, pharmaceuticals are made throughout the world. Syringes, vials, are made everywhere. That's air cargo. And when we get vaccines up and going, to get the supply that we're going to need in the U.S., we've got to figure out a way to get some of these other aircraft up and flying. And so we're taking a look at that now. I don't have much news for you, but we're going to do our part to make sure that we can carry everything that's necessary to get the U.S. Where it needs to be.
a savvy investor asks the following. The liquidity runway of American Group extends at current burn rates through to mid-2022. Is that amount of liquidity adequate to your needs and your vision?
Well, so we anticipate finishing the year with $14.5 billion of liquidity. Again, for American Airlines, that's more than double the kind of liquidity that we would normally carry. And we've always carried a high level of liquidity just based on the fact that, we've wanted to be prepared for whatever comes our way. So we believe that we have, certainly the wherewithal to make it through whatever comes our way, and also, further capacity to address needs through slots, gates, and routes, and second lien financings, and other spare aircraft and facilities that we could also tap into if we needed to finance to gain more liquidity. But I think the point here is that, look, this demand environment is not going to be what it is today. For us to get back to a cash burn break even, we need demand to return. As I said, we have seen really great developments that are accelerating in terms of therapeutics and diagnostics and testing, and certainly with vaccines, we anticipate that will be coming. And what I know is when that takes enough hold, people will be willing to travel. We see it today. When things are open, the best correlation from our view these days in terms of airline travel, in terms of and markets, is generally the number of restaurants that are open, the percentage of restaurants that are open in a given market. So things have to be open for people to want to go. And look, that's going to happen. And when it does, airline travel will rebound accordingly. So I don't look at, hey, I can make it to 2022. We're going to stem the tide certainly long before then. And our goal is to get to a position where we're producing cash.
Okay. Notwithstanding all of those good comments regarding the return of demand, someone asks, why would I, as an investor, invest in American or in the airline industry with its high fixed costs, volatile fuel costs, unionized workforce, little or no customer captivity or ability to raise prices? The next sentence is the recent increase in the share price a function of Robin Hood millennials as opposed to serious investors?
Well, Dean, that's a lot of homework for you and your students. But I'll tell you this: having been in the business, a long time, coming into 2020, I was really excited about the prospects for American Airlines. Look, going into 2020. We were coming off of, a labor disruption. We, had the MAX that was grounded. We had just gone through the largest fleet renewal in terms of commercial aviation history. We had restructured our network to really concentrate flying on where we do the best, like Miami and Charlotte and DFW and DCA. We had cut some international flying that we had been invested in for a long time and that really didn't produce a return. Look, American Airlines was set to come out of into 2020 really strong. And I know that those same tailwinds that we had, plus what we have done during the pandemic, are going to return us to a position where we can really lead. And so, what have we done during the pandemic? Well, we made some really tough decisions. U.S. Airways and American, they integrated, 5 years ago. We took the opportunity to say, hey, look, we can do our best to make sure that we're as lean as possible in the management ranks. So we've cut 30% of the management team. That cost is not going to come back as we grow. The fleet itself, as I said before, we've taken out 150 of the least efficient, most costly aircraft. That's not going to be part of the airline going forward. As we build back the airline, we're doing it in a way that is certainly going to be efficient and more efficient. So I look at the prospects coming out of the pandemic, and this is, look, we got to get through a mess that we're in right now, no doubt. But out of the pandemic, I couldn't be more confident in terms of American and our ability to survive and thrive when we get back to a more rational marketplace.
We've had an enormous number of questions posted, Robert. If you'd permit me just a couple more minutes, I'll just give you a few final ones before we end.
Absolutely.
One question is, how often are the pilots, flight attendants, and gate agents tested for COVID? A second question is, are the code share partners operating at exactly the same standards of safety and cleanliness requirements as the core airline? And the third question is, will you be flying American during the holiday season yourself?
Oh, sure. So, yeah. Okay. So in terms of testing, look, we have a requirement for all of our employees to do self-diagnostics, before they come into work, anytime. Any symptoms, we ask our team members to get checked. We have set up testing capability for our team members in all the large locations, and so people get tested when they need it. Next question was. It's been a long day, Dean.
Question are the code share partners.
So code share partners, really pleased with that. Remember, our code share partners, okay, it's Qantas, it's JAL, it's BA, it's Cathay. We've just linked up with Alaska, Alaska Airlines, which I'm really pleased with. We're going to have a new deal with JetBlue, hopefully really soon. We operate with the best carriers in the world, bar none, the flag carriers in so many different places. And we do code share audits of our different practices and procedures. So I have great confidence that everybody is operating to a standard that is really great. And in terms of flying, just so people know, I don't sit still very well. I just don't. And so, it's been just part of what I do to get out and fly. I took the last flight before the restrictions, were put in the UK out of London Heathrow. I flew, virtually every week during the summer, someplace. Just been out to Philadelphia and the East Coast, this past month. I told you I was down in Brazil a couple of weeks ago, and I will be in Miami-Dade come Christmas and New Year's time. I'll be on that first MAX flight that is taking off from Miami-Dade, and I welcome all of you to get on flights with me. Paying, of course.
All right, listen, we're 6 or 7 minutes late into the gate at the end of this session, but it's been fantastic to have you spare an hour for us. We really appreciate everything American does for Miami and for South Florida, and wish you every success in rebounding the airline.
Dean, thank you. The only thing better that could have happened is if you and I could be doing this together. I look forward to doing that. And I want to tell everybody, thank you, be safe, and we'll see you out flying American.
Thank you, and good night from Miami.